Well, it's time for a special edition today of Live on Live. Now, what seemed inconceivable 18 months ago has now become a reality, shaking up the French political system from its traditional rotation of governments from socialist to right-wing. Emmanuel Macron, elected president last month at the age of 38, Les Républicains En Marche and its allies have won a sweeping victory in Sunday's second round of legislative elections. And now they have garnered 350 seats in the 577-seat National Assembly. So this effectively gives Macron a strong mandate to begin implementing pro-growth reforms when Parliament meets for a special session on June the 27th. Now, today, I'm joined in the studio by Anne Lebreton, who's the Deputy Mayor of Paris's 4th arrondissement and an En Marche supporter. You're very welcome back into the studio, Anne.
Thank you very much.
And on the telephone, I'm joined by Bruno Gollnisch, who's an MEP for Marine Le Pen's Front National. Bruno, thanks for taking our call today.
You're welcome.
Now, let's just start with really the man of the moment. President Emmanuel Macron's government has promised to reshape France's political landscape. And now that he's won the parliamentary majority he needed to push through far-reaching reforms, once the government is reformed in the coming days, and what's his first move going to be?
Well, we're going to start working for the program that we got elected for. And so...
well, give us a recap exactly what that platform is, what the programs are.
It's reform. There's going to be a lot of labor law reform, and that is starting immediately because President Macron is going to keep the parliament in session this summer, which is not usual. So there's going to be an extraordinary session.
We've been made aware of that here at Radio France International as well, that everybody, while we're away, if we get away, that everybody here is going to be working. It's no big breaks for all of the new arrivals.
Exactly.
And so what can we expect? Now, the main question that really kind of comes to mind is we have, you spoke there of labour reforms. There's also trying to tackle the pension scheme system in the country that is very, very heavy going. But how will Macron, in your opinion, succeed where his predecessors have failed? I mean, pushing for reforms in a country with the powerful trade unions that we have and a history of street protests, as we've seen from time immemorial, these protests and these trade unions have previously forced many governments to back down or at least dilute legislation. What can En Marche do to the electorate or for the electorate that will actually stop any protest, that will actually, that will actually let the people will actually let it go through without any protest?
Well, before trade unions felt they had the backing of the people, and the way we were elected very quickly, a year ago, we were a budding movement, with almost nobody behind it. And that clearly indicates that there was a real desire for reform. And one of the biggest things to reform was the labor law. The unions are not going to feel they're backed by the people. And that's going to put them in a complicated position because they're going to lack legitimacy.
So you believe that really En Marche has gained that traction, that the unions won't get the support that they need behind them if they want to block certain measures?
I definitely think that's what's going to happen.
And well, we'll wait and see. I mean,
yes.
you have a working holiday ahead within En Marche. We'll have La Rentrée, that's when everybody returns back to work in September. But we're all saying to ourselves, will protest season be October when everything settles? I mean...
Well, also, we have a different way of working on things. We're very into dialogue, and a lot of things are going to be discussed beforehand and voted this summer. Usually in trade union fights, in France, it's before the law is actually voted. And I think the government's intention is to get the laws voted this summer. So... Well, we'll be off on holiday.
We'll wait and see. But you're saying that there's a much more consultative process that you believe that will be more appealing to the electorate then?
That and the fact that we have a legitimacy that the trade unions don't have anymore.
Now, Bruno, you're still on the line there. Can you still hear me loud and clear?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. Well, look, Bruno, I have a question for you. Now, Les Républicains and their conservative allies will form the largest opposition bloc in Parliament with some 137 seats, while the National Front won only 8, including a seat in Hénin-Beaumont for your party leader, Marine Le Pen. But the Front National fell 7 seats short of the 15 seats needed to be able to form a parliamentary group. Will the Front National be trying to get its voice heard through the main opposition, Républicain?
Well, no. I'm not sure that the Républicains will be a true opposition because, all of them have advocated a vote in favor of Mr. Macron in the second round of the presidential election first. And also many of the leading figures did say that they were ready to work with him. It's well known, for example, that the actual leader, Mr. Barouin, would have liked to be appointed as prime minister by Mr. Macron. And the former prime minister, Raffarin, rather center-right, is a leading figure of the so-called constructive or constructivist. That is, that means people who are ready to work with Mr. Macron. So I don't think there will be a true opposition. And when they say, for example, that they will oppose the increase of taxes that are in the program of Mr. Macron's so-called CSG, contribution sociale généralisée, that Mr. Macron wants to raise up. When they were in power, they did. When this tax was created by the socialists, they protested against it very loudly. And once they were in power, they maintained it first. They increased it by 2, 3, 4 times. Mm-hmm. So I think that nobody believes that there will be a true opposition. But I must confess that it will be very difficult for us, with only a hand of members in this parliament, to make ourselves heard. Also, Mr. Macron, the previous, I don't know how to say, spokesman or spokeswoman for Mr. Macron said that he wanted to go very fast and, for example, reform the labor law, but he will do it by ordonnance or ordinances that are the kind of I don't know how
by decree. I think is what you're saying. But what I want to put back.
That means clearly, for example, that the bill itself, the content of the bill, will not be discussed in Parliament, which is really unbelievable for such an important reform.
Well, we'll see about the legitimacy of the Républicains as the main opposition, because really it is now up to Barouin to whip them all into place. And there are still a lot of Républicains out there who are licking their wounds. So, I mean, they probably will be rewarded with some cohesive strategy in the future to actually get them to toe the line and have their loyalty recompensed. But what I want to ask to you, Bruno, is in the presidential election, Madame Le Pen won more than 50% of votes in 45 voting districts and drew a total of 10.7 million votes in the presidential election. And that was a historic high for the Front National. Why did the Front National, however, fail to capitalize on this yesterday?
Well, it's not only our case. It's because of the electoral system. Would have it been the English system that is supposed to be in favor of the two major parties, we would have more members. And would it be a proportional system, for example, if what would be quite natural, we would have the parliamentary election at the same time, the same day, than the presidential election, as it is the case in the United States, for example. And would it be proportional system? We would be 123 members elected in this parliament. We have only a handful of 8 members. This is a very serious problem, because it means that the parliament that is supposed to be the représentation nationale, the representing the nation, in fact does not. And it is a very, very serious problem, because if the discussions, even I would say the fight is about social, economical problems and so on, do not take place in the parliament, so then they will take place in the streets.
Well, Bruno, this is a point that I'd like to bring Anne Lebreton back into the discussion here. Okay, it's the ongoing fight of proportional representation versus first past the post. We can always do the calculations that, oh, well, if the smaller parties had proportional representation, they would have a larger slice of the pie. In your opinion, Monsieur Gollnisch is mentioning there that if it's because of the system itself, it works against Le Front National, that is the reason that the electorate didn't vote for him. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree at all. I think that what happened there is that for the first time, the people who usually vote for the Front National because they're trying to express anger or express dislike, for the first time, they were offered maybe an alternative, something different, a new vision for France, and they definitely chose hope rather than anger. So they're in a wait-and-see position for the moment. They didn't go and vote, and they're going to give us our chance. And so hopefully we'll meet, we'll be up to the challenge. And 5 years from now, hopefully the Front National will be back to the small party it was once.
Well, let's talk about small parties. And Bruno, I'd like your opinion on this as well. But first, I'll put the question to Anne. The Socialist Party won just 29 seats. Can the Socialist Party be reborn?
Personally, I'm not sure it will be reborn.
And Bruno?
I think something else will be reborn instead of it.
Bruno, what's your opinion on that? How would the Socialist Party ever be able to come back as a political force?
Obviously they are very low, but I'm not sure that they are dead. I think there are still some. I'm not socialist at all. I always fought against socialists, but there are some young and clever people within this party, and if Mr. Macron doesn't succeed, you can see them back. And also, I would like to say that a lot of socialists found their place in with Mr. Macron. They left the thinking socialist ship, and they boarded the ship of Mr. Macron. So you will see in the future. But I disagree with what Mrs. Lebreton said, because the system is definitely bad, and not only the system, but the result of these elections were announced by the media on the basis of the polls before the elections took place. So in this case, people who already went to go and vote for the presidential election, they do think that it is not useful to go and vote again, as the result is already known.
Well, the one thing, you did brush on something there, and it's something that I think we can all talk about, but I'd like Anne's opinion on it. Like, we're saying Bruno was mentioning there of people jumping ship from the Socialist Party, but there were also people who jumped ship from the Socialist Party towards the far left to Jean-Luc Mélenchon's party, which won 17 seats, and they've now got their minimum of 15 needed to form a parliamentary group, and those 15 seats give them a tool that provides extra funds and speaking time and other ways to get their voice heard in making policy. But many consider Monsieur Mélenchon and Madame Le Pen as very much two sides of the same coin, especially regarding the younger base, they'd say the angry base, if you will, that you mentioned earlier, from where they draw their support. Would you agree that these people actually, they're so far as left and right of each other that they actually have a common policy that they might use together?
No, I don't think they'll work together, but they definitely have common policies that are very different from ours. They're sovereignist, they're anti-globalization. They have a lot of things in common. And I think maybe some of the voters of Jean-Luc Mélenchon realized that between the two, the first and the second round of the presidential election, and that maybe accounts for his not doing as well as he thought. So in the legislative election.
And Bruno, we're running out of time here. We've only got about 30 seconds left. What about you? In your opinion, would there be ever a way of working with La France Insoumise?
No, not really. Although it's clearly a popular reaction against the excess of globalism and the will to defend to retain some part of national independence. Mrs. Lebreton spoke about the reform of the social law that is clearly dictated by Brussels, for example.
Okay, Bruno Gollnisch from the Front National, thanks for joining us on the line today. And Anne Lebreton, the Deputy Mayor of Paris's 4e arrondissement, thank you both for being on the programme today. We had so many other things we wanted to cover, the record gender parity and rise in that during the elections. We hadn't got time. Bye-bye.